So we start with this map, and as I said, I have introduction into the sculptural survey of Kashmir through the writings of scholars such as R.C. Kark and scholars after him who have looked at material from the various museum collections and on site, whatever is remaining. And as recent as John Sudmak from UK, and also Bansilal Malla and Professor Sharma from New Delhi and Bharat Kala Bhavan. So these are a few scholars whose work I could identify, I could lay my hands on. So it is an area which is really not well studied and not well understood. And here I'm trying to unpack some material. I will have to be very focused because the time is short. And what I'm trying to do is to connect temple architecture with sculpture, of course, and with geography and the location from where material like stone is available, how building construction of temples would have happened, and in that the reference to the waterways and the Vitasta becomes extremely important. So the association of temple sites, as you can see, many of them are located right around the river, and some of them are also inside the island, like the Parihaspura. So the association of temple sites with water bodies and river Vitasta and the hills has a strong tradition of Brahminical temple building activity and the use of hard stone for carving of deity images as prescribed in the Shilpa texts. The oldest mention of river Vitasta is found in the Rig Veda, the 10th mandala, 75th verse of the Nadi Stuti Sukta, which mentions 7 rivers, amongst them Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati, Shatudri, Parushni, Vitasta and Sushoma are mentioned. So overall the Nadi Stuti hymn encapsulates the reverence and importance accorded to rivers in ancient Indian civilization, portraying them both as physical and metaphysical entities, essentially for sustenance, fertility and spiritual well-being. The knowledge of sacred Indian geography and the sustenance of civilization along the rivers and water bodies suggests that the ancient Vedic and Puranic cultures evolved along the rivers, revering them as nourishing divinities. And it's only in India, through my research on rivers, I found that the river is identified or is personified as a female divinity, and that's a very, very unique predicament that we have in India and in Indian culture, or the Indic culture, the ancient Indic culture. This further establishes the antiquity of the river Vitasta and the presence of an ancient civilization that flourished along its banks. Coming to the word Kashmira or Kashmira is also mentioned in the Ashtadhyayi of Panini and Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. So the awareness of this land, however remote, is very much ingrained in the Indian cultural ethos, and I think the access, even though we feel it was so difficult, it was always accessible. And therefore, while you will see some of the examples that I have brought together today to share with you, that iconography from various parts of India has there is a give and take or movement of iconographical traits between different parts of India and Kashmir, and from Kashmir to different parts of India. I would like to begin this presentation with just 2 news clips which were very heartening for me when I was doing my research on the internet, that the ancient history or the early Indic civilizational ethos has not been forgotten, even though it could have been neglected but not forgotten. When I read these 2 news clips which actually mention the finding from Karkut Naga site in Aish Mukam in Anantnag district, where you find these relief sculptures which could be hero stones, or which could also be stones commemorating certain important people or donors. But what is interesting is you see references to costume as well as some kind of ritual worship, where you see people worshipping a Shivalinga. So the appearance of a Shivalinga in a hero stone or a memorial stone is a very important reference. You also have a four-armed seated deity, which is also a very interesting reference. Sorry. Which is also a very interesting reference. You can see here. Oh. Okay, anyway, it's on the right side, the upper part of the stele, and you will also see in the middle photograph a number of broken shivlings which have also been found from this side. Again, the connection with water body is what I want to establish. And there is this other news item which I read from 2021, where while doing clearing of the Jhelum river in Badgam district, some laborers found a very important image, broken image of Durga, which is iconographically a very unique reference to the iconography of Durga, because it's very, very local to this region, and this was very rightfully handed over to the Department of Museums Archives, and that's again a very good sign. I hope that in future more examples like this are unearthed and are preserved in our museum. So part of my research also took me to the SPS Museum, the Shri Pratap Singh Museum in Srinagar. I've done extensive photography and looked at almost everything that is on display. I still don't have the access to their reserve collection, but I also made some inquiries about where else in India or outside of India there's a collection of Kashmiri sculptures. And to my greatest surprise, I find a lot of examples are in the American Museum of the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, and a number of examples are also in British Museum, and thankfully also in the National Museum. So you will be coming across in the next few minutes some masterpieces of sculpture from Kashmir in Srinagar as well as other parts of India and the world. So for this purpose, because the time is short and there's so much to talk about and so many interesting details to notice, I have focused mainly on the Brahminical sculptures, or what we call the early Indic Sanatan sculptures, and within that also focused on Shiva, Shiva Linga, and the multiple forms like the Trimurti, the Shiva Vishnu Mahesh concept, and the Panchamukha image of Shiva, so the composite images. And again with the Vaishnava images also, I have focused on the Vaikuntha Vishnu, which is again a very interesting composite image. Referring to these sculptures, I just gravitated towards in my research to these iconographies with the view that there's something unique about them which the Kashmiri temple builders, sculptors, or the acharyas who were guiding the sculptural activity or the temple building activity has actually focused on. And for what reason is not possible to encapsulate within these few minutes, but I want to share the images with you, and I'm sure many of you may have some suggestions. So I start with this Brahma Vishnu Mahesh. You can see it is a pedestal, the images are mounted on a pedestal, and you see the faces are effaced, that is smoothened. There's a possibility that they could have been part of a ritual of Abhishek, which is happening in many of the temples in southern India. That practice is continuing even to this day. This is a agamic tradition, Vedic Puranic agamic tradition, and it is possible that it could also have been part of the Pashupata tradition in Srinagar that was practiced at this time. Although this is one of the unique examples where you see the important presence of all the three in almost the same hierarchy, but of course importance of Shiva assumes greater significance as the time goes. This is Ekamukha Linga, so we are now talking about the aniconic representation of Shiva in the form of the phallus. The Shiva Linga placed on a yoni peat, and this is a very early example from Gupta period in Udaygiri in Madhya Pradesh. And on the right side is another Mukhalinga in sandstone from a Central Indian site, which I was involved in acquiring for the Asian Civilizations Museum way back in the 90s. And these are important features to notice and remember. This is the classical Gupta idiom, which spread across many parts of India in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th century. We also call it post-Gupta. So this is Nachna Kothara and Bhumra and Ko. Both of them are in Madhya Pradesh. One is in the National Museum collection and the other is in situ. This is a very significant 7th century Mukhalinga from Srinagar, where you can see that the lingam and the peat are actually one, they are not separate. And so the carving is again very different and very unique for the region. And Shiva also wears a garland and kundal, and his matted hair is uniquely rendered. And also the lingam is very naturalistically represented, like what you see in the Gudimalam Shivalinga from Andhra Pradesh of about 2nd, 3rd century. So this is a practice which is unique and continues in the area of Kashmir. There's another example which is from the SPS Museum, which has a very interesting combination of local features, Gupta features, which you see in the lotus-shaped eyes and eyebrows, which are like the Buddha's eyebrow connected. So there's a urna, third eye. But very interestingly, he's wearing kundala and necklace with makara. And the kind of the kind of style of tying the jata is considered by scholars who have written on Kashmiri sculpture as of Sasanian origin or Sasanian features, something that will keep repeating throughout this presentation. It is also something important to notice that many of these sculptures would have been proposed or commissioned by the royal patrons. And so there is an association with royalty, divinity, and the sense of power and strength that these sculptures exude. This is a very interesting sculpture from Pandretan, quite a big statue, almost more than 5-6 feet tall, and it is now iconic. It has a warrior-like representation of the divinity. And the style of the headgear again and the way the matted hair is treated is slightly different from the example we saw earlier. Pandretan has a few more examples. Then you have Shiv Parivar, which is also a very important iconography that comes in the representation. But very interestingly, if you watch closely at the costume of Parvati, she's wearing what is called the kanchuki. It's a long blouse, like what we call kurtis these days, with a slit on the sides around, and then the lower garment is like a hip wrapper or a lungi. So that's again a very interesting combination of stylistic features that are local as well as elements coming from the central India, North India, and from the northwest at the same time. However, the local genius is translating all these influences in a manner in which they are trying to absorb the influences and render them in their own style. This is